Pixar's brand new film Hoppers had its first full trailer out this weekend, and the concept of this film is
this into this.
My question is, how does this technology work, and can we discover the way these scientists built it? Because as seen from the trailer, we see younger versions of Mabel's professors, so they have been working on the Hopper technology for a full generation now. So previous similar technology that they could have built off must have been out there somewhere. So where else in the Pixar universe have we seen similar technology? Technology that allows humans to communicate with words to animals. Maybe we should look up to the sky for our answer, because it just so happens one of Pixar's most beloved films, all about an old man traveling up in a floating house, might just have the answer. In Up, when Carl and Russell land in South America, they are met with dogs that can speak English, but this technology is limited. The dogs still bark, so they can't physically speak English themselves. But when wearing the dog collar, the canines are able to use the collar to take their thoughts, and the collar translates this out loud into English spoken by an AI. And this technology doesn't just work for dogs, it is actually used for any kind of animal. We see in the Up spin-off show Dog Days, during the episode called Science, Russell reconfigures the dog collar to allow all types of animals to communicate their thoughts into English, from insects to squirrels to snails to birds. The big difference between this technology compared to the newer technology we see in Hoppers is this technology only allows animals with a collar to communicate with humans, and it actually prevents the animals who have the collar from speaking to other animals when they wear the collar. We know in Pixar films like Finding Nemo and A Bug's Life that animals from different species can communicate with each other, they just can't communicate with humans. But in Up, when Doug is wearing the collar, he suddenly is unable to communicate with other animals unless they are also wearing a collar. It basically reverts his entire speech to only English. He can communicate with the other dogs because they have collars, but he can't communicate with animals such as Kevin, which is what causes all of the issues that we see with Kevin throughout the film, because Kevin doesn't have a collar, so no one can communicate with her. However, with the Hoppers technology, they have solved this problem. Hoppers can communicate with other animals. They still can't communicate with humans, as we see in this car scene with an old man, but the human who is controlling the beaver suit therefore can then communicate back to the humans. So it means they finally cracked how to communicate from human to animal and found a system where everyone can understand each other. So this to me all suggests that the Hoppers technology is a future, more advanced version and upgraded version of the original dog collars, and the timeline of this does make sense. If Mabel's professors have been attempting this technology since they were first at university, that would have been around the time when the dog collars were first created. The creator of the collars is of course Up's villain Charles Muntz, who creates this technology so that he can use dogs to search for the rarest animals and birds in South America and bring them back to North America as trophies. And when Muntz starts developing the initial stages of the dog collars, Mabel's professors likely would have been in school, so that when Muntz had refined the technology, it would have been a perfect time for them to start university and carry on his research. And there are loads of similarities between this Hoppers trailer and the movie Up. Specifically, there are loads of similarities between the technology that they use, such as the way Muntz analysed and tested it on the dogs. It looks very similar to the technology the professors in the lab are using for the beaver suit and analysing different animals. And then I saw the most terrifying discovery. In the background behind Mabel, we can see previous attempts of robotic animals they have tried to create to communicate with animals. They of course end up with the beaver, but we can see the previous animals they've tried with. And the main one in frame is a bird with a long orange beak. Now, it isn't exact for exact the same, but it does have a shockingly similar appearance to none other than Kevin. Which makes me think, did Mabel's professors originally work for Charles Muntz? Muntz's lifelong goal was to catch Kevin's species, and we know that the university Mabel attends, Beaverton University, is set up to specifically study animals and how humans can learn to communicate with animals through technology. We also know Charles Muntz was a very clever scientist and explorer. The likelihood of him being a university professor as well seems really likely, considering movies were made about his life and his research, and Carl and Ellie continued to be fans of his research throughout their lives. So what if Charles Muntz was the lecturer of these professors that we see in this trailer, and he set them the task of creating technology that could be more advanced than the initial dog collar technology in order to create a robotic bird to communicate with Kevin's species in order for Charles Muntz to eventually capture them for good. And if you think about it, Charles Muntz didn't know what Kevin's bird looked like. It was a legend. The whole reason why he was outcast from his science friends was they didn't believe that he had found the bird. So the fact that this bird in the Hoppers trailer looks a similar build to Kevin but doesn't exactly look like Kevin would make sense as to why they were building that. And we see these professors, when researching, going out and exploring the animals similar to Charles Muntz. And this task Charles Muntz set up for these professors to do, to create this technology in order to capture Kevin, isn't finished in time for the events of Up. But we know after the events of Up there is a rise of AI in the Pixar universe, as we see by and large buying Carl's house, who are eventually going on to create the Axiom and the robots that we see in WALL-E. So it makes sense that by the time Muntz's students are old enough to be old professors themselves at Beaverton University, that by then they have worked on this technology for a full generation, they have refined the technology, and have finally made the breakthrough that we see in Hoppers, the ultimate way for humans to communicate with animals. So that is how Pixar's new film Hoppers is connected to Up and the ongoing Pixar universe and theory. What do you guys think about this? Do you think there's a chance that Up and Hoppers could be connected? Do you think Charles Muntz could be connected to these professors that we see in the trailer? Are you excited for Hoppers? I personally am. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And as always, we've been here on Gated Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. If you want to know another way as to how this Hoppers technology might work, then we have made another theory relating to a different Pixar film, and that theory discusses how Hoppers could potentially be related to Soul, and they're using souls in order to body hop between animal and human. So if you want to go and check out that video, there'll be a link down below in the description, or you can go and click the card somewhere up there.
Clown around, yeah, and we can clown around when it's just you.